Okay, so for this one, I'm going to speed run just the basics of Bolt because it's not hard, but sometimes people get not confused, but they find it a little bit harder to pick up and also to build something that's meaningful or in line with their vision. And I think it's because they have a couple of hangups that we'll talk about in a second. All right, first thing first, if you can think it, you can build it. Now, this isn't entirely true. However, I recently was thinking, oh, what if I could scan something using the phone's camera? I was like, no, I don't know how to code that, but I put it into Bolt and it was able to do that and build the functionality. Another thing I did was, oh, I need to figure out how to use where I scan something, it takes the text using OCR, which is optical character recognition, to then take that data and run it through my own background database and then pull forward the answers based on what that text is by using AI to pull the OCR, the characters that it recognized, into a search query and then pull forward for the user an automatic understanding of what they're looking for. So if you take a picture of something, it'll automatically take all that into account and then give the user what they're actually looking for automatically. I didn't know that Bolt could do that, but I was just like, why don't I try it? So a lot of times where I'm building things, it's just because I'm thinking, why don't I try it? And then it turns out that it can actually do what I'm thinking. So don't let like a lot of working with Bolt is going to be exploratory because not even I know. I don't think anyone really knows at this point like where AI stops at this like juncture. But I think we can kind of have a good idea of how to use it in a way that's creative and curious. So if you can do that, it'll be easy to build. This is another thing that I see people do. They're overbuilding and over engineering. So they start out with like an ideal customer set or even like some type of problem that they want help with from Bolt. And it turns out as they're doing it, they end up going too far. And by going too far, you end up falling into the same trap that most startup founders do when they're trying to build something, which is they overbuild. They don't talk to customers often enough or early enough. And all of a sudden, you have something that's a little bit broken. And it's broken in a way that you didn't anticipate. And either you got to scrap it or you have to like really go about cleaning and clearing the fat and trimming it so that it becomes something that's actually viable. Bolt is the exact same way. You have to make sure that you have a vision of where that you want things to end up because one, that's what the user stories in the brief will help you like kind of consider like, okay, when is Bolt done? Because when it's done is when I need to go to customers. If you wait too long, you might overbuild and then a customer is going, hey, I don't want that, or I don't want this Z feature that you built. And then it turns out that like that Z feature was foundational in how you like worked with Bolt to code the application. And so at that point, you're kind of figuring out, oh no, I have to either restart, which I've had to do. I've spent about 5 hours or 6 hours on a project and had to restart it because I didn't have the endpoint in mind. And then I tested it and it turned out like the way that I had structured the vision for this product was totally off. And I had to build a completely new version of it because I had no end in mind. So I just kept building and building and building. And it turns out that it created this level of bloat and it made it slow, even though Bolt's really good at rewriting code and kind of getting rid of technical debt. Sometimes, if you are not an engineer, you don't understand how to build an architecture of a product. So when you're telling Bolt to do something, you might be over assuming things. And in that process, you're building out too much, which is not valuable to a customer, whether it's a B2B customer or a B2C customer. So I've really found it helpful if you have an end state in mind of when you're going to stop and then you start building.